It's another week, which means it's a new episode of Campfire Cooking in Another World with My Absurd Skill Season 2. And what a fine episode it was. Trillionth Joe here, and this is my review of episode 6 of Campfire Cooking in Another World with My Absurd Skill Season 2. And like usual, there'll be spoilers, and please like and subscribe. So, starting with a quick recap. The episode starts with a mysterious exit suddenly opening up next to Dolan's dungeon entrance, and Makoto and the gang coming out of said exit. Shock ripples through nearby adventurers and witnesses as they realize that such an exit only appears after a party has cleared the final floor of the dungeon, something that is confirmed by Afel, who matter-of-factly declares that the gang have just finished conquering the dungeon. As nearby adventurers begin a chaotic line of questioning, the disappointing elf Elrond comes springing into the scene with an over-enthusiastic greeting to Dora-chan. He pulls Makoto and gang away from the scene towards the Adventurers Guild while saying that dungeon exploring only ends when a proper report has been submitted to the guild. Once at the guild, Makoto gives an initial report of what happened in the dungeon to Elrond and Yugo, the sub-guildmaster. To the discomfort of Dora-chan, Elrond spends an awful lot of time giving credit to Dora and aggressively shaking his hand. The guy is a little too into dragons. After the initial report wraps up at Yugo's suggestion to give Makoto a chance to rest before asking for a more thorough report, Makoto and the gang go out of the city into a forest area and refreshen up with a bath. The gang, of course, enjoy their usual post-bath milk while debating the merits of taking a bath, Fel being the main one to be anti-bath here. Typical doggy. The debate is abruptly ended when Fel and Dora mention hearing a strange cry in the area. The group investigate the sound, come across two children running away from an orc, and step in time to stop the orc from hurting the children. While a little hesitant at first, the children reveal themselves to be Daryl and Iris from the city of Dolan. On the condition that they can get the corpse of the orc that was chasing them, they explain their family circumstances to Makoto. Desperate to save their sick mother and with their adventurer father missing in the dungeon, the children decide to earn some money and enter the forest area to collect medicinal herbs when they had the misfortune of meeting the orc. With the orc, the children hope to be able to sell it to the Adventurers Guild and use the money to get a high-ranking priest from the royal capital to cure their mother. Makoto listens to their story with tears in his eyes and ponders what he can do to help the kiddos, but his thoughts are interrupted by the children's rumbling stomachs, something that the glutinous gang can relate to as they start demanding for food. Makoto preps some lunch while the children play with the glutinous gang. Quick side note here, the children chasing after Sui and Dora while Fel looks on from the side is really adorable. It's like old Grandma's Fel is just looking from the side as he watches the kids play. For lunch, Makoto makes a teriyaki cockatrice tsukimi burger. Tsukimi is a Japanese term that refers to moon viewing. The round yellow yolk of an egg can be described to look a bit like the moon, so some Japanese dishes that feature a roundy egg yolk use tsukimi as a part of the dish's name. Tsukimi udon and tsukimi soba are good examples of this. These dishes are often enjoyed during the tsukimi season, or moon viewing season of Japan. The season itself is around like September, October, and it's generally seen as a kind of mid-autumn festival of sorts of Japan that celebrates the full harvest moon. In recent years, McDonald's and other fast food places in Japan have put their own spin to this with the creation of the tsukimi burger. They're basically fried egg burgers or sandwiches that get put on the menu for a limited time during the very specific tsukimi season. So for the episode, Makoto did his own custom version of the tsukimi burger here with the cockatrice meat, and did it very well, judging from the reaction of the children and the glutinous gang. Grateful, the children earnestly thank Makoto, but break his heart in the process by referring to him as Oji-chan, a term reserved for middle-aged men. While Makoto processes that is how youngsters view him nowadays, Fel proceeds to add salt to the wound by smugly teasing Makoto about how he too is being referred to as Oji-chan. It's a callback to season 1, where Sui shocked Fel by referring to him as Oji-chan, and how Makoto poked fun at him for it. What comes around goes around, I guess. Tired from running from the orc and satisfied with lunch, the children fall asleep on Fel. Reflecting on their situation, Makoto and Fell discuss the children's predicament and come to the conclusion that only an elixir can save the children's mother. Recalling that elixirs can be made of the very dragon materials that Makoto currently possesses, he tasks Sui to use those materials to make an elixir and gives himself the task of making a gentle and hearty soy milk soup that the children can take home to have with their mother. Sui, being the best boy that he is, somehow manages to make an elixir, admittedly a degraded one, but still quite impressive, and is praised by Makoto for it. Makoto then wakes up the children, and the gang take the children back home to Dolan. Once in Dolan, Makoto mentions having accidentally found a magical cure to the mother's illness. It's Sui's elixir, but can't freely give it to them due to the cure being a product that he is selling as a merchant. So instead of gifting it to them, Makoto makes a deal to exchange the cure for the orc that the children had been hoping to sell to the Adventurers Guild. He also gives them a pot of the gentle and hearty soy milk soup and parts ways with them. But not before Daryl passionately declares that he will become a merchant one day and do good deals like Makoto had done for them that day. As the gang settle in for the night, Makoto decides to check everyone's status to see how they may have improved from clearing the dungeon and finds that everyone other than Makoto has significantly leveled up. Upon checking his status though, Makoto notices some kind of +1 label on his grocery skills and is surprised to find that a new feature of the skill called Grocery Tenant has been unlocked. Grocery Tenant seems to let Makoto purchase products from non-grocery outlets on top of the usual online grocery store. In this case, he is given the option to choose one of two presented non-grocery outlet options: a fast food burger place and a confectionery store. Partially due to Sui's urgings, Makoto selects the confectionery store, and the gang are thrilled to find that Makoto can now purchase from Fujiya, a confectionery store. Makoto quickly purchases a bunch of cakes and shares them to his familiars, who proceed to thoroughly enjoy them. Satisfied with the grocery tenant that he's been able to unlock, Makoto comments that he feels he may have forgotten something, and the episode ends with the disappointing gods and goddesses being frustrated with the lack of offerings from Makoto. From there, we get a post-credit scene where Daryl and Iris use the elixir on their mother and enjoy the soup that Makoto made for them. As he watches the effect of the elixir on his mother, Daryl makes an astute observation that Makoto gave them a seriously OP cure, decides to keep it a secret, and swears to become a successful merchant that can one day pay back Makoto. And that is where we leave things as far as episode 6 goes. So, thoughts. Coming from the two previous episodes, which were very much dungeon oriented, this one felt really refreshing and I liked it a lot. Nothing against the dungeon episodes. I mentioned this in the last review too, but the dungeon episodes are fine. They just get a little repetitive after a while because, it's basically the same cycle over and over again, isn't it? The gang come through and they wipe out a bunch of monsters from the dungeon floor, and then they go on to the next dungeon floor, and the cycle continues. So, after a while, it can get a little bit tiresome. By the end of episode 5, I was pretty much ready to leave the dungeon. This episode was very much like a palate cleanser, where it's like you had the dungeon stuff, and now we're out of the dungeon stuff. Well, we're not completely out of it because there's a little bit more of that aftermath of, what are you going to do with the dungeon drops, and, Elrond still wants to know more about the various dungeon floors in Dolan's dungeon and whatnot. So, there's a little bit, we're still going to have to deal with a little bit more dungeon stuff, but here's an episode where we don't really deal with that, and we just spend some time with Makoto on a side quest. And as a reader of the light novel version of the series, I kind of appreciate the way in which the anime decided to adapt this specific story. Now, the anime is adapting technically from the manga version of the story, which in turn is adapting from the light novel version of the story. But the light novel is telling the story, and the anime is telling the story here pretty much identical. The light novel might have more details because it's a novel, but they captured the spirit very well with the anime adaptation. I really appreciate that because this is probably one of my more favorite stories from the series, just because they do a really, really good job of actually fleshing out the children and the kind of issues that they're dealing with, the kind of personalities that they have. I especially liked that the episode made sure to include the detail of Daryl actually realizing the value of the cure that Makoto had given him. That's something that was brought up in the light novels and not something that I would necessarily expect to get brought up within the anime adaptation. Because usually what happens is when they adapt things to the anime, they gotta cut stuff out because they have limited time and they can't tell every story. So they cheapen some of the stories that are meant to be a little bit deeper at times. That happens a lot in anime, right? But they didn't with this one, and I really appreciate that, because it is one of my favorite stories. Also in this episode, we get to finally see Makoto upgrade his online grocery skills by getting a tenant, which is a very fun and frankly creative way to actually expand this guy's abilities. It means that the items and variety of stuff that Makoto can purchase will continue to expand as he levels up. The addition of Fujiya is just a sign of what is to come. By the way, quick FYI, Fujiya is like a real store in Japan. They're basically like a chain establishment that do restaurants and confectionery stores, which I guess makes this another product placement in the show. Anyway, episode 6, another lovely episode. Maybe not the most action-packed one compared to the last episode, but a nice little palate cleanser, you know? Out of all the animes in this anime season, this has been the one that I've just generally been trying to keep up with regularly, and just one that I've been looking forward to watching every week. So I'm just really happy that they're doing a really good job of the anime adaptation here, and that they're keeping the quality pretty high. So you know, it's all good, and I can't wait to watch the next episode. Very much in the same way that I'm looking forward to any comments that you want to leave in the commenty section down below. Let me know your thoughts about the episode. Let me know about what you're thinking about the series overall. And you know, I'm also looking forward to you liking and subscribing to the channel. I'm assuming you liked it enough to be watching to this point. It'd be nice if you could give the video a like and maybe a subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. I'll see you guys next week for a new episode of this series, and thanks for watching.